Welcome to the MusicNut program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. And welcome to the new series here on the MusicNut program, The Album War. A lot of YouTube channels that talk about music have album war shows. I'm going to put a little twist on mine. Two or more artists who came out with an album of the same title, regardless of era, regardless of genre. Today, I have three bands or artists who are going to battle it out for my favorite version of the album, No Rest for the Wicked. All these albums came out in the 1980s. What I will do is I will introduce the albums, we'll give a review of each, talk about the songs on here, what I'm into, what I'm not into so much, tell you who played on it and who produced it. And then I will just give my verdict, so to speak. We're going to start out March 1983. Canadian hard rock band Helix released this album, No Rest for the Wicked, on Capitol Records. This would be their third album and their first worldwide release. 1985, post-punk legends from the UK, New Model Army, would release No Rest for the Wicked on EMI Records. Last but certainly not least, the controversial yet charismatic frontman from Black Sabbath who went solo. This would be the fifth solo album, Ozzy Osbourne, No Rest for the Wicked, released on Epic Records in October of 1988. So how are these albums? Well, let's go with Helix first. This is the remastered and reloaded version from Rock Candy. The production, is good. It doesn't have a lot of the things you don't like about some 80s production. It's not dated too much. I mean, it's kind of raw. You could tell the original wasn't done on a really big budget, but I dig it. I think hard rock should sound a little raw. You don't want to pretty it up. Band who played on this, Brian Vollmer on lead vocals. Brian Vollmer is there to this day. Helix is still active. Brent the Doctor Dorner on guitars and vocals. Paul Hackman on guitars and vocals. Rest in peace. Mike Uzelac on bass and vocals. Greg Hins on drums. And this was produced by Tom Tremuth for H&S Productions, co-produced by Helix and William Sipe. Let's go over the tracks. Best way to sum this album up, just a good, no frills hard rock album. Doesn't reinvent the wheel. Couple, maybe one or two great songs. Everything's solid. I wouldn't say anything on here is subpar. Does a Fool Ever Learn, I think, is a very strong opener, one of the stronger tracks on the album. Nice space between the riffs. We got a cool chorus and a nice bridge on this as well. Let's All Do It Tonight. That's a cool anthem. It's very solid. Heavy Metal Love would be the single, and it would be a video as well. This is a cool track. Check Out the Love. We have a bridge on here. It's more of those "What's It Gonna Be, Girl" bridges. It's decent. The title track, which would end side one on the cassette or vinyl if you bought it back then. Very driving, really strong track. Don't Get Mad, Get Even. This is a cover, and this was done by Del Bello. This, to me, is the best song on the album. It's very well written and crafted. It just kicks. It got great guitar lines in the chorus, nice crowd participation part in the end after the solo. This song I really dig. It's cool. Ain't No High Like Rock and Roll. Again, we got another decent anthem there. Dirty Dog is a little heavier, a little more raw, more like AC/DC. It's pretty cool. Never Want to Lose You was also a video. This is the closest they get to a power ballad. This is cool. White Lace and Black Leather closes the album. Another cool song here. Again, all the songs are like decent and a few really standouts. It's a cool record. I personally like the next one, Walking the Razor's Edge, a little more. Wild in the Streets from '87. I like that album a lot. This is pretty good. So this is Helix's No Rest for the Wicked. This would go to number 186 on the Hot 200 in the States, so it just made a little dent, but it did go gold in Canada. Now, let's talk about the New Model Army. Now, in the UK, you will know this band. In the States, they didn't make much traction in the States. I did not know who this band was until 6 years ago. I had a friend who passed away. His name was Jack Wastamaccia. And this guy knew more about music than anyone I've ever met in my life. He introduced me to this band. He made me a mix CD. Me and him were both old school. We still made mix CDs and gave them to each other, introduced each other to music. He introduced me to a heck of a lot more music than I introduced him to. But this was one of the best bands he ever introduced me to. And this is a band I'm really getting more and more into as I go on. This band started out more punk, post-punk, but they changed their sound a lot as time went on. But they kept up that topical spirit in their lyrics. Justin Sullivan is their main songwriter, lead vocals, and guitars. He's still there to this day. This band is still active. They put out an album this year, and I just ordered it off of eBay. I should have it in a few days. Stuart Morrow on bass and vocals. Robert Heaton on drums. He passed away in 2004. Rest in peace. This was released on EMI, as I indicated before, produced by Mark Freegard. This hit number 22 on the UK album charts. I believe this is their highest charting album in the UK. They were from Bradford, West Yorkshire, England. This was their second album. As I indicated, they're still active this day and have been recording consistently to this day. Now, this album does sound more like an 80s album, and the fact that there's a lot of echo on here, but I'll tell you what, the songs kick. This is a very strong album. Justin Sullivan, also known as Slade Leveler at that time, is a wonderful lyricist and songwriter. The songs here, a lot of them are carried by acoustic guitar rhythms, and Stuart Morrow's bass is way up in the mix. Think of those first couple albums by the Smiths with the bass up in the mix, and you get a good idea of their sound. Frightened is the opener. There's a lot of echo on the vocals here, but there's nice lyrical guitar line. Again, that bass is really high up. It has a very strong bridge to it. I have a lot of songs here where I have an asterisk next to them because I really loved them. And the first one is Ambition. Very melodic lines in this. That bass is really cool. The lyrics are very personal, very melodic, strong chorus. Wow, did Justin have a knack for a strong chorus. Excellent track, as is Grandmother's Footsteps. Galloping guitar line on here. We got a very strong chorus on here again, with creeping footsteps around the world. That's how the chorus goes. Sounds a lot better when you listen to it than when I say the words, but very strong chorus on this. Better Than Them was a single, and this is fantastic. Plays like an anthem. The acoustic guitar is carried away. There's a lot of nice call and response between the vocals on here. It's played with a fast march drum beats on this. Outstanding. It borders on folk rock, like The Alarm a little bit, but the Alarm were really great early too. I mean, but this is deeper lyrically than The Alarm would be. And I love the early Alarm albums. My Country, Holy Busy bass playing, another fantastic track on here with an excellent bridge. No Greater Love is more heavy and more dramatic. Justin's vocals on this are very expressive. No Rest is the other single off this album. This would hit number 28 in the UK. The lyrics, the delivery, kill. Fantastic song, fantastic anthem. Very passionate, quieter in the verses, but more defiant in the choruses. Excellent. Young, gifted, and skint, I'm sorry, has a rockabilly feel. There's some voices in the background of people talking, most trying to be like teenage voices. It's a song of young, gifted, and stint's another word for broke. And it's talking about what people were going through at that time. And at that time, I mean, it was more of a generation where we had to, it was very much into consumerism. And this is what Justin's singing against. Drag It Down, the acoustic guitars lead the way on here, very melodic. Another great chorus and bridge. Shot 18, this one, another one that kicks. Great stop-start rhythm on it. The attack is very somber. It's just a closing track. It's more folk, but lyrically, it's very dramatic. Lyrically, this is the finest song on the album. So, New Model Army, if you've never heard of them, check it out. Check out this band. They are wonderful. And now, for the album I've had since the beginning, but I had it on cassette back in the day. I bought this as a new release, Ozzy Osbourne's No Rest for the Wicked. Now, this album is by far the biggest album commercially. This went double platinum in the United States. It hit number 13. This is the first album that features Zakk Wylde on lead guitar. He would be in and out of this band all the time. But, I mean, this is where we got to hear that very distinctive guitar sound of Zakk Wylde, and we know his work with Pride and Glory and his solo work and Black Label Society. I mean, he's a hell of a guitar player. A lot of fire in his playing. And back then, I think it was like 20 or 21 when he played on this album. We have Bob Daisley on bass, and he's writing all the lyrics here, although he wasn't credited back then. And we have Randy Castillo on drums. He was a monster. Rest in peace, Randy Castillo. Excellent drummer. And we have John Sinclair on keyboards, produced by Keith Olsen and Roy Thomas Baker. Now, when I had this album in 88, I wasn't very high on it. I thought Ultimate Sin was a way better album. I still think it's a better album. Difference here is I like this a lot more than I used to. I appreciate the songs more. The lyrics, I think, are stronger than Ultimate Sin. The songs, I think, were kind of hit and miss on this. But I've always loved Miracle Man. That was an attack on Jimmy Swaggart. When Jimmy Swaggart, back in the day, the famous or infamous televangelist, was really shitting on heavy metal music, particularly Ozzy Osbourne. This was like a receipt to him. This song kicks. Great delivery, great lyrics on here. Excellent. Great opener. Devil's Daughter's pretty cool. We got a cool breakdown in the bridge. Great guitar playing from Zakk on this. Crazy Babies would be a single and video, and Miracle Man was as well. This is more, it's catchier. Chorus is kind of silly, but it works. This is a cool tune. Breaking All the Rules was also a single and video. I was never high on this. I think it's played very well. I love Randy's drumming on this, but the song itself, I think, is just okay. Bloodbath in Paradise, that's a song about Charles Manson, the murders. This is pretty cool. There's some great guitar playing on this. Cool track. Fire in the Sky is the ballad. Well, one of the two ballads, actually. And I like what they're doing musically here. I like the keyboards with that slow burn. And I do like the riffs on here. I'm not a fan of the lyrics at all. I just they're talking too much about castles and all that. And I just think it's a silly lyric, but I do like what they're doing musically. Tattoo Dancer, Great playing, not a great song. It's all right. Demon Alcohol, I didn't like back in the day. I listen to it now. I'm like, it's kind of catchy. Not one of my favorites, but it's all right. Now, back in the day, the last track was unlisted, and it was called Hero. But from 88 till now, I think that's one of the best songs on the album. It should have been on the album proper when it came out in 1988. To me, that's the best song on the album, next to Miracle Man. It is excellent. I think Ozzy's vocal performance on this is wonderful. I think this is a very well crafted song. Now, when they re released this and remastered it, they put out the song The Liar, which was on the Japanese release. This is more of a piano ballad. It actually kind of starts out a little bit like Breakfast in America by Supertramp. Then it turns to you got some nice fretless bass on here, just a piano ballad. It's okay. It's decent. And this is like more of a hit and miss album for me these days. Whereas before, I would have said, oh, this is my least favorite of all the ones he's done so far. Now maybe I put this over Bark at the Moon now. Maybe just a little behind Ultimate Sin. I think the first two that he did with Randy Rhoads are wonderful. They're tens. So this album war, Helix, New Model Army, Ozzy Osbourne. Well, you can tell by my commentary, I believe New Model Army wins the title today for the best album, called No Rest for the Wicked, released in the 1980s. So, what do you think of these albums? Have you heard of the New Model Army? If you're from the UK, if you're a big fan of the New Model Army, please let me know in the comments. I'm just getting my feet wet with this band. I would like to know where else can I go from here? Because what I heard on this album and the four other albums as part of the original album series, I love everything. But did they keep up that consistency? I'd like to know that. What do you think of Helix's career and Ozzy Osbourne's career as well? Ozzy's done a lot of wonderful things. I mean, he's definitely retained his popularity. His health isn't too good right now, which stinks, but he's had a heck of a career. He's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer twice. I personally love his work with Sabbath more. Even Never Say Die. I'm a big fan of that album. Please let me know in the comments. Please let me know what you think of this concept as well, because I got a few more that I'm thinking about that I'm gonna be doing a album war on. So I have the YouTube links for each of these bands or artists in the description, just to let you know. And some programming notes. I'm gonna have a album after coming up the next day or two. Looking forward to putting that one out for you. We're going to be doing a top 10 songs from 1986 on Grant's Rock Warehouse on Monday night, which would be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That will be on November 25th. We will have the panel with us as usual. I think we're going to have about 9 of us talk about our favorite songs from 1986. We also have the Accept Up to the Limit series continuing on John Clauser's channel, My Music Corner. The episode for Accept's 2010 album, Blood of the Nations, is out there right now. We had Logan Collins making his first appearance on YouTube. Check out his channel. Him and Sydney both have a channel now on YouTube. I'll also put a link to that in the description as well. So, until I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.